Snakes on a Train was released in 2006. This is directed by Peter Mervis, written by Eric Forsberg, with a cast including Alby Castro, Julia Ruiz, Giovanni Bejarano, Amelia Jackson-Gray, and various others. And I apologise if I mispronounced any of those names. And this is a film distributed by the Asylum, which might come as no surprise to anybody since it was released the same year as Snakes on a Plane, which is a fantastic film. And this one, there are some interesting aspects. There's a decent backstory. I do think they made an effort to make it a bit more interesting than just some random snakes on a random train. There's a little bit more detail to it than that. I won't spoil it, of course, partly because it's the most fascinating aspect of the film. But it did take a really long time for anything on the train to actually happen. And when it did happen, and the snakes become a threat, it just wasn't that interesting. I never felt like there was a risk. I never felt like the characters were really in danger. Maybe if I was tremendously scared of snakes, I would have a different response. I'm not. I live in the UK. For the most part, snakes are not a real danger here. I feel like if I did live somewhere where snakes were a real threat, maybe I would have had a different response. And certainly if you watch it and you're in that scenario, I would be keen to know what you think. But if you're not that scared of snakes, I don't think it's going to offer very much in terms of being a horror film. Yes, the backstory is interesting. The pacing isn't great, but I cared a little bit. I was curious to see what would happen. I didn't care for any particular character, but the performances were fine. Nobody annoyed me, so that's certainly good. And there are a few tiny moments that made me squirm a little bit. Again, I wasn't scared, but they just made me feel a little uncomfortable, just a few small moments, so it does get points for that at least. The camera work is okay. The lighting could be a lot better. I feel like they were going for dark and grimy, and it does convey that. But as I've mentioned many, many times, I prefer films that are just a little bit more brightly lit. I feel like they're visually a lot more engaging. And you can certainly do a horror film with bright lighting. It doesn't always need to be dimly lit. But I guess it works well enough. But with the fact that it's visually just not the most engaging. So, do I recommend it? Background company, absolutely. If you're just looking for a horror film that's not really that scary, decent backstory, decent performances, you don't really need to concentrate very much though. Background company, absolutely brilliant choice. By all means, sit down and become enveloped in the story and give it your full attention. You might find it more engaging than I did. You might like the pacing more than I did. It's certainly not a terrible film, but I don't really think it met its potential either.